I got a message from Lucy and she says, can you make another FreeBSD install video? It's been a while since the last one and I think people are starting to realize how bad Windows and macOS are getting. Hello from America. Well, Lucy, I can, and I can do one better. I can show you how you install GhostBSD and NomadBSD as well. Before we start, if this is your first time to the channel and you would like to learn more about FreeBSD and the journey to a better desktop and server, then please hit subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out. Right, first things we need to do is we need to go to the GhostBSD homepage. If you just type in GhostBSD into Google, it will take you to an option where you can go to the main page or you can download it straight there. We're going to go to the main page so I can show you how to navigate from there. So here's the main page. It's a lovely homepage. I like GhostBSD one. So click at the top, download, and it will take you to the official image first, which has got Mate. And you can use torrent or direct download. And then underneath you've got GhostBSD community images, which runs XFCE, which is the non-official. But the official one that you really want to be using is the Mate one. You can download direct from these mirrors. So they've got US, Canadian, French, and South African. Or you can use the torrent if you wish. Minimum specs is 64-bit processor, 4 GB of RAM, and 15 GB of free hard drive space, and a network card. So we're just going to go down to the French one for me, and download from there. It's a 2.5 GB file size, which is not too bad. So we'll just save it, and then we'll let it do its business. And you can also donate if you want, which I've done on several occasions, and will do again. It's always nice to give something back to this worthwhile project. Right, it's been downloaded, and what we're going to do now is I'm going to write it to a USB stick. I'm going to use DD. You can change the actual device name if you wish. So I've got DA0, but you can be DA1, DA2, etc. And the BS equals 4 megabytes. You can change that to 1 if your USB stick is not compatible. It just speeds it up, really. So we're just going to let it do its business. All done. And there we are. So transfer the USB stick to my test machine and then we'll reboot. So we're now booting into the usual test machine with the USB stick with the newly created GhostBSD image on it. I'll just let it boot up. There we are. There's a nice welcoming main menu. Just going to let that run down. It's not too bad, the waiting time on this. I'm going to fast forward the boot. And because GhostBSD is a live system, it has to copy some things over. And there we go. Got a nice GhostBSD desktop. And if you've seen previous videos on GhostBSD, you know, as you can see, it's got almost everything you need for a desktop setup, even in the live mode. It's very nice indeed. And there we are, there's the system resources of the test machine, even though we haven't installed it yet. Speaking of which, we will start the install by clicking the Install GhostBSD icon. And now what this will do, it will put it on your hard drive and it will just generally turn a live system into an install system. So we choose the language. There is plenty to choose from if you go down to the one that fits your needs. And for me, that's going to be English. I've just seen English UK, but we'll leave it at the default. Keyboard layout, change it to English UK. Obviously you choose the one that suits you best. And you can change the keyboard models if you know a specific make of the keyboard you're using. So we're just going to test this now. I'm going to do some quotation marks, pound signs, dollar signs, and hashes. Yeah, everything's in the right place. So we click next. And we have the time zone. So for me, it's going to be Europe. For you, it would be somewhere else. So once we have that, we go down to London. There we go. Next. In full disk configuration, that means it'll use the entire disk. Or you could custom if you want to choose something like if you want to dual boot. So this is what the custom would look like. It allows you to add partitions and change things, etc. I don't normally change that because I don't normally dual boot, but if you want to, that's the way to do it. So clicking on full disk configuration because I want to put the entire drive to GhostBSD. It presents us with some ZFS options. So the drive you want is ADA0, and DA0 is the install USB stick if you don't want that one. You can choose single disk, 2 mirror, 3, 4, etc, etc. But what we're going to do is single disk, because we've only got one drive in. The default pool name is zroot, but we're going to change that, and we're going to call it, you don't have to do this of course, but we're going to call it tank. Tank, there we go. Leave that checked. And everything else is default GPT and swap. Yeah, we'll leave that as is. So if you're happy with everything there, we'll click on next. And it gives us only one option because it's the only one we're installing, but you can set up RE-Fine Boot Manager. You can set up with the FreeBSD Boot Manager, or just leave it on FreeBSD BIOS loader only. Because that's the only one we've got, we'll leave it on that one. System password or administration password. It's not the strongest one and actually tells you it's super weak. And leave it at that. Real name obviously is RoboNuggie. It automatically fills in the host name with your name at the beginning, which is nice, but we're just going to change that to test, as I always do. The username is based upon your full name, of course. Password again. There we go, very nice. One thing I do like is if you get one letter in wrong, it tells you with an X there that doesn't match, just in case you type something incorrectly. So just type the right one. And the shell I prefer. I always go for SH, but you've got plenty to choose from there. For the Bourne shell is sufficient, I think, for our needs. And that's it. Install. The GhostBSD installation process is very nice. And we're just going to time it. I'm going to fast forward and time how long it takes to install from the disk to the hard drive, so we have a fully working system. And 5 minutes, 58 seconds, 08. Not bad at all. And now we're done. So we're just going to click on restart. Take the USB stick out of the test machine and we'll boot onto the hard drive of the newly installed GhostBSD. And there we have it. Put in the password, log in, and give it a moment. There we go. Very nice, and as you notice on the desktop, the installation icon is not there now. And we have a fully working GhostBSD system with all the same things as it did on the live session. Now with the ability to add plenty more, depending on your hard drive size, of course. So yeah, the installation process for GhostBSD is super easy and very quick. NomadBSD's installation is a little bit more convoluted, but we'll show you what we do. Right, you search NomadBSD in the Google search engine like we did before, and you get an option to download or go to the main site. We'll go to the main site. And just like GhostBSD, the option is right at the top. But if you look at the requirements again, 64-bit or 32-bit, 5GB USB, and a 1.2 CPU, and 1GB of RAM. So the system requirements is modest. So we click at the top and go to download. And it gives you instructions on how to download and then extract the image file, which is very handy for all the major systems. You've got OpenBSD, NetBSD, macOS, etc. So if you're using any of them systems, it shows you how you can do it. And of course, Windows, you can use Etcher, etc. Plenty of mirrors to download from. And confusingly, the actual image that we want is Nomad 13.0R. And if you look at the bottom, it says Nomad 1.4. You would think, just looking at that on a cursory glance, that Nomad 1.4 is higher than Nomad 13. But they renamed the latest build to 13R to represent FreeBSD 13.0 release. Just so for them it's easy to tally whereabouts they're tracking on the FreeBSD. So we click on London, or the one obviously near yourselves, and we save. And it's just it's 2 gigabytes, which is smaller than the GhostBSD image. And we start the download, and we'll just let it do its business. We'll write it to a USB stick when it's downloaded. Right, again, we're on the command line, and we're going to extract the image file, or decompress it. So LZMA and -D for decompress. There's the NomadBSD image name. And we've just decompressed it. Now we need to write it to the USB stick. And I'm following the instructions on the NomadBSD website. So copy and paste that in. Again, your device name will probably be different. We'll fast forward. Right, all done. Now we're just going to reboot the test machine with the USB stick installed. One thing about the NomadBSD install process, it really does depend on the speed of your USB stick. The machine that I'm using doesn't have USB 3, so it's really slow, and the USB stick itself is not famed for being fast. So there we are. Let's boot it into the main menu. What it'll do first, it needs to expand the image to fill up the USB drive and set various parameters up. So you need to select your language and your locale. So it's plenty to choose from. Like GhostBSD, there's very few that's left out. Of course, English United Kingdom. So we now press next, and welcome to NomadBSD Setup Wizard. Okay, so choose the default keyboard layout, and it chooses it automatically for the locale that we chose earlier. I'm going to leave that as it is. So click next, and additional keyboard layouts if you want them, which we don't. So next again, and the time zone, and again it automatically chooses based upon your previous answers. So very good, we'll just next again. It's all very simple so far. Password, like GhostBSD, you need to put in a root or admin password. Doesn't tell you if it's strong or weak, like it did in GhostBSD, but that doesn't matter. It also does tell you whether they match or not, which is, again, useful. So next. There's an interesting option now that it gives you whether you can encrypt the actual data on it, with it being primarily intended for mobile OS, so you can carry it around. You don't want anyone getting hold of it and getting all your data. So we're not going to bother with it, but that's a very useful feature. And your preferred shell editors and file manager. So it defaults automatically to fish, but again we want Bourne shell. Easy editor we'll leave, and LeafPad, yeah, we'll leave it on LeafPad for the GUI editor, and file manager we'll leave it on Thura. So pretty sensible choices straight away. And if you're happy with that, you take commit and it will write to the USB stick, making everything ready for being used as a portable OS. It took a long time. Like I said, this wasn't the speediest. Your experience may be different, but we'll fast forward through it. Right, all done. And finish to reboot. And it will actually reboot using your USB stick. So don't take it out like you did with GhostBSD, because you're not just installing to the hard drive yet. That will come up in the next bit. But for now, it's acting as it should. It's acting as a portable OS booting off your USB drive. So again, for the second time, we go into the NomadBSD menu. I would just like count down and boot. Again, it wasn't the fastest, and I really should get something with a USB 3 ports, I think. And there we go. That took its sweet time. As you can see, it's pretty loaded with utilities and applications, which is all very nice, and all these will get transferred to your hard drive. So we need to go down to System, and at the bottom, well, near the bottom, it'll say NomadBSD installer. This is the little utility which will do the magic for us. It will basically copy what's on the USB stick to the hard drive. So next, there's obviously just one hard drive we can use. You can use UFS or ZFS. We'll just choose the defaults. And username. Now this is an interesting thing. It only lets you choose 8 characters. So yeah, that's a rather strange limitation. And we'll auto log in anyway. But whereas GhostBSD lets you choose large names, this one doesn't. So just something to be aware of, I think. Next, and yeah, we'll just commit that. Just in case you change your mind, and there we go. So about 8 minutes and 53 seconds. A little bit longer than GhostBSD, but not too bad. And we'll finish. And one more reboot, but this time we'll take out the USB stick because we want to boot off the hard drive now. And there we are, booting into the newly installed on hard drive NomadBSD. And this is a wonderful system that they've done. To be able to use it as a portable OS, and then if you want to later then install it to hard drive, brilliant, really nice. And it's all very lovely. Now FreeBSD is slightly more involved. So you go to the FreeBSD website, again like the previous two. You get an option to download a few other things as well, or go to the main project page, which we will do that now. And there, right at the top it says download FreeBSD in the big yellow box. So you get 3 choices. You can download 13, 12.2 or 11.4. You really want to be choosing 13. You get lots of different images that you can choose from, which is pretty good, but the one that we want is AMD 64, of course. It's good to see that they support 32-bit. There's plenty of Linux distributions that have given up that. So we'll click on AMD 64, and it will take us to the FTP server. And we could just go by download the AMD 64 Disk 1 ISO. But what we need, because we put it onto a memory stick, is the memory stick image. It's just laid out slightly better. It's optimized for memory sticks, I think. So, and it's a gigabyte in size, which is not too bad. So just let that download. Nice and quick on FreeBSD mirrors. Yeah, I do get some complaints that it's slow, but I really don't have any problems with it. And we'll just let that finish. And for the third and final time, we're in the terminal and we're going to be using DD, which is now finished because it really doesn't take too long on this one. And put it into the test machine and reboot, and it will go through the usual FreeBSD install, which really never changes. And you can choose install, drop to the shell, or live CD. And it's not live CD as in GhostBSD, it's slightly different. So we're going to choose install. We're not going to go with the default key map. We're going to go down to all the way down to the bottom. Almost to the bottom anyway. United Kingdom. We don't need to test it, I know it works. So we'll continue with the UK key map. And we'll choose a host name. Again, I always choose test so I know what's going on. Choose optional system components. We don't need the debug symbols. We're going to leave it at lib32. Could put source and ports in if that's something that you really need. And normally I would. But on this occasion, to keep things simple, I'm just going to choose lib32. Auto ZFS or auto UFS? Well, I'm going to choose auto ZFS, simply because I think that's the best default now. So we'll click OK for that. So we'll just go down to the configure the disks, choose Stripe, and we'll select that hard drive. You could choose these other ones if you want, like GhostBSD, but because I've got a single drive, we're just going to choose one. And the rest of these things we'll leave as default. You can encrypt disk or encrypt swap, so that's pretty handy. But we'll just proceed as it is, and we'll choose yes. and away it goes. Again, I'm going to time this. I would imagine it doesn't take 2 minutes. There you go. Well, that was really, really quick. Fantastic. So we're going to choose password for root. It's a bit less user-friendly than the other 2 ways of doing it, but it still works. Choose the network interface. Would you like to configure IPv4? Yes, we would. And DHCP? Yes, why not? Feeling lazy today. So it's acquiring leads. Now we don't want IPv6. It's going to change that to the Google as a fallback. There we go. And we want to change the time. So we don't want UTC, so we put no. Europe, and all the way down to the bottom to the United Kingdom. There we go. Near enough the bottom. And looks fine. We'll skip that because the time is right. Now these services, if you want to disable or enable them, NTP date to get the clock right. We don't want dump dev, and yeah, that's fine. And now you can choose if you want to harden the system. So we disable DD trace, so secure console. You disable sendmail, which we don't need to be running. Disable syslog-d and clear temp when we reboot. Would you like to have some users? Yes, of course. Again, just type in username, full name. Doesn't automatically fill you out like GhostBSD does, but you know, we'll get there. Login group, we'll leave it at default, and also invite to other groups. Yes, we need wheel so we can access super user from the normal account. Video, just in case there's any compatibility issues. And operator, so we can access any peripherals, etc. We'll leave that at default, and most of these can be left at default anyway. And we get down the password. There we go. I don't want to lock out the account, no. And we're happy with this? Yeah, I think so. And no, we don't want to add another user. And that's basically it. We just don't need to change anything. Everything has been done. So exit and no again. For you don't want to make any modifications. That will allow us to reboot. Once the system reboots fully, then take out the USB stick and it should boot into the newly installed FreeBSD onto your hard drive. And there we go. I haven't installed any desktops or anything. That's for another video, I think, but it just shows you how you can install onto a hard drive, and it's really, really easy. It's a little bit more. There's a few more questions than the other ones, but the process is basically the same. Anyway, hopefully you found this video useful, having a look at the 3 main FreeBSD based operating systems, each with their own little take on how to install, but each one doing their own thing very, very well. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.